Jake Murphy looked out the big window of the space station. His hands were pressed against the cold glass as he watched a strange ship come closer. The ship was not like anything humans had ever built. It was smooth and silver, with no sharp edges. It moved through space like it was swimming through water. "First time seeing one of their ships?" asked Dr. Lisa Park as she walked up beside him. She was holding a thick folder full of papers and notes. Jake nodded. "It's beautiful. Different from our ships." He turned to look at Lisa. "Are you ready for this?" Lisa smiled, but Jake could see she was nervous too. As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens, I guess. The ship they were watching belonged to the Zilithians. 3 months ago, these aliens had sent a message to Earth. They wanted to meet humans and learn about their way of life. The message had been simple but clear. They were curious about human customs, especially something they called bonding behaviors. Jake was a lieutenant in the Space Navy. He had been chosen for this mission because he was good at talking to people and staying calm in new situations. Lisa was a scientist who studied alien life forms. Even though she had never met real aliens before, she knew more about them than anyone else on the station. The space station Aurora was big and new. It had been built just for meetings like this. There were rooms for the aliens to stay in, labs for doing research, and meeting rooms where humans and aliens could talk safely. "The Zilithians are very different from us," Lisa said, as they watched the alien ship get ready to dock. "They live much longer than humans. Some of them are over 500 years old. They are very smart and they love to learn new things." "What do they look like?" Jake asked. "They look a bit like humans, but their skin is light blue. They are tall and thin. Their eyes are much bigger than ours." "And Jake," Lisa paused, "they don't understand love or marriage or families the way we do." Jake raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean?" "For them, making babies is just science. They don't have boyfriends or girlfriends. They don't get married. When they want to have children, they go to a lab. Scientists mix their genes together and make new babies. The babies grow in machines, not inside mothers." This was hard for Jake to understand. "So they never fall in love?" "Not the way we do. They think love is strange and not needed. To them, we humans are very odd because we form emotional connections before we reproduce." A loud sound came through the station's speakers. "Attention, all crew. The Zilithian ship is now docking. Please report to your assigned positions." Jake and Lisa walked quickly to the docking bay. This was a big room where ships could park and where people could move from one ship to another. Other crew members were already there, all dressed in their best uniforms. Captain Ben Wright stood at the front of the group. He was a good leader who always stayed calm. Next to him was Dr. Tom Baker, the station's psychologist. Tom was there to help if anyone had trouble dealing with meeting aliens for the first time. "Remember," Captain Wright said to everyone, "be polite and respectful. These aliens are our guests. We want to make a good first impression." The big doors to the docking bay opened with a soft hiss. Jake held his breath as 3 figures walked through the doorway. The Zilithians were just like Lisa had described, but seeing them in person was still surprising. They were tall, almost 7 feet high. Their skin was a soft blue color like the sky just before sunrise. Their eyes were huge and bright, taking up much of their faces. They moved in a graceful way, like dancers. The one in front stepped forward. "I am Niravel," she said. Her voice was musical, like she was singing instead of talking. "I speak for my people on this mission." Captain Wright stepped forward and held out his hand. "Welcome to Aurora Station. I am Captain Ben Wright." Niravel looked at his hand with curiosity. She tilted her head to one side like a bird trying to understand something new. "This is a greeting custom?" "Yes," the captain said with a smile. "We call it a handshake. It shows we are friendly." Niravel carefully reached out and took the captain's hand. She held it gently and moved it up and down once. "Interesting. You touch each other for social reasons, not just for necessary tasks." Jake watched this with amazement. The alien woman seemed so curious about everything. She was taking notes on a small device that looked like a tablet computer. "We have prepared rooms for you and your team," Captain Wright said. "Dr. Park will show you around the station and explain our customs." "Thank you," Nyravel said. She looked around the room at all the humans. "I am very excited to learn about your reproduction customs. We have heard that humans form emotional attachments before creating offspring. This seems very unusual to us." Some of the crew members looked uncomfortable. It was strange to hear someone talk about love and marriage like it was a weird science experiment. Dr. Lisa Park stepped forward. "We would be happy to explain our customs. Perhaps we could start with a tour of the station?" As they walked through the halls of Aurora, Nyravel asked many questions. She wanted to know why humans put pictures of their families on their desks. She was confused about why couples held hands when they walked together. She did not understand why people hugged each other when they met or said goodbye. "Your species maintains physical contact for non-essential purposes," she observed, watching two crew members pat each other on the back after sharing a joke. "This behavior serves no practical function." Jake found himself walking next to her. "We like to touch each other. It makes us feel good. It shows we care about each other." Nyravel stopped walking and stared at him. "You feel good from touching? Even when you are not reproducing?" "Yes," Jake said, trying not to laugh. "We hug our friends, we hold hands with people we love. We pat people on the back to show support. Touch is important to humans." Nyravel made more notes on her device. Her big eyes never stopped looking around, taking in everything she saw. Jake noticed that her skin seemed to change color slightly when she was thinking hard. It became a darker blue. "I have much to learn," she said softly. "Your species is far more complex than our initial research suggested." The next morning, Nyravel woke up early in her guest room. She had not slept much because her mind was full of questions about human behavior. Everything she had seen the day before was so different from life on her home planet. She walked to the dining hall where humans ate their meals together. This was another strange custom to her. On her planet, people ate alone or in small groups for efficiency. But humans seemed to enjoy eating together and talking while they ate. Jake was sitting at a table with two other crew members, Alex Chen and Mia Rodriguez. Nyravel had learned that Alex and Mia were what humans called a couple. This meant they had chosen each other as partners for both emotional and physical reasons. "Good morning, Nyravel," Jake said with a smile. "Would you like to sit with us?" Nyravel sat down carefully. She had brought her own food that her ship had prepared. It was a gray paste that contained all the nutrients her body needed. She noticed that the humans were eating many different colored foods and seemed to enjoy the taste. "Why do you eat so many different things?" she asked. "Would it not be more efficient to eat one food that has everything your body needs?" Alex laughed. "We eat for pleasure too, not just nutrition. Food tastes good. Sharing meals together is social time." Nyravel watched as Mia reached across the table and touched Alex's hand. They looked into each other's eyes and smiled. Neither of them spoke, but something was happening between them. "What are you doing?" Nyravel asked. "You're looking at each other without communicating information." Mia and Alex both laughed. "We're just being close," Mia explained. "Sometimes you don't need words to communicate with someone you love." The word love was still confusing to Nyravel. Her people had no word for this feeling. They had words for friendship, cooperation, and respect, but nothing like what humans called love. After breakfast, Nyravel followed Jake on his daily work duties. She wanted to observe human behavior in their normal activities. Jake worked in the communication center where he helped coordinate messages between different parts of the station. During a break, Jake showed Nyravel pictures on his personal tablet. They were images of his family back on Earth. There was a picture of an older man and woman standing together with their arms around each other. "These are my parents," Jake said. "They have been married for 30 years. "Married?" Nyravel asked. "It means they promise to stay together as partners for life. They love each other and take care of each other." Nyravel studied the picture. The two humans in the image looked happy. Their faces showed the expression that humans called smiling. They have been partners for 30 years, but they are no longer young enough to reproduce efficiently. Why do they stay together? Jake thought about how to explain this. Because they enjoy being together. They make each other happy. When one is sad, the other helps them feel better. When one is sick, the other takes care of them. They are not just partners for making babies, they are best friends who chose to share their whole lives together. This idea amazed Niravel. Her skin turned a brighter blue, which Jake was learning, meant she was very interested in something. So human partnerships continue even when reproduction is not possible? Yes. In fact, most of the time when couples are together, they are not trying to have babies. They just enjoy each other's company. That evening, Captain Wright was walking through the station when Niravel approached him. She had been observing the crew all day and had many questions. "Captain Wright, I must ask you something," she said. "I have watched Alex and Mia today. They do many things together that serve no practical purpose. They eat meals sitting close to each other when there are many empty seats. They walk through the station holding hands when this slows their movement. They spend time looking at each other without exchanging important information. Can you explain this behavior?" Captain Wright smiled. He was a wise man who had been married to his wife for 25 years. "They do those things because they love each other, Niravel. Love makes people want to be close to each other. When you love someone, just being near them makes you happy." "But why?" Niravel asked. "What advantage does this provide?" "It is not about advantage," the captain said gently. "It is about not wanting to be alone. Humans are social creatures. We need emotional connections with other people. Love is the strongest of these connections." Niravel's skin turned purple, which Jake had told her meant she was confused or troubled. "This is very difficult for me to understand. My people value efficiency and logic above all else. These behaviors seem to have no logical purpose." "Maybe that is exactly why they are important," Captain Wright said. "Not everything in life needs to have a logical purpose. Sometimes the most important things are the ones that just make us happy." The next day was movie night on Aurora Station. This was a weekly event where the crew gathered to watch old Earth films together. Dr. Park had suggested that Niravel attend to learn more about human culture. The movie they were watching was a romantic comedy from 50 years ago. It told the story of two humans who met, fell in love, had problems, and then found their way back to each other. Niravel sat between Jake and Dr. Park, watching the screen with intense concentration. She had never seen anything like this before. The humans in the movie did many of the same things she had observed on the station. They looked into each other's eyes. They held hands. They touched each other gently. But more than that, the movie showed emotions that Niravel had never experienced. The characters felt joy just from being together. They felt sad when they were apart. They felt excited when they saw each other after being separated. They experience happiness from proximity to their chosen partner, Niravel whispered to Jake, even when they are not engaged in reproductive activities. Jake nodded. "That is what love is like. When you love someone, being with them makes everything better. Being away from them makes you miss them." Niravel watched as the two characters in the movie finally came together at the end. They held each other close and kissed. The music became louder and more beautiful. Other characters in the movie smiled and looked happy for the couple. Something strange was happening to Niravel as she watched this. Her chest felt warm. Her skin was changing to colors she had never seen before, soft shades of pink and gold mixed with her usual blue. She felt something she could not name, something that made her want to understand more about this thing called love. "I want to learn more about this," she said quietly to Jake. "I want to understand how humans form these emotional connections." Jake looked at her with surprise. Her skin was glowing softly in colors he had never seen on a Zilithian before. "What? Do you want to know?" "I want to know what it feels like," she said. "I want to experience this thing you call love." 3 days after movie night, Niravel made an announcement that surprised everyone on Aurora Station. She called a meeting with Dr. Park, Captain Wright, and Dr. Baker in the main conference room. "I have a request," Nyravelle said as she sat at the big table. Her skin was a determined shade of deep blue. "I wish to conduct a personal experiment." Dr. Park leaned forward with interest. "What kind of experiment?" "I want to experience what you call dating," Nyravelle said. "I have observed human couples and watched your entertainment media. I have read your scientific papers about romantics, relationships. But I cannot understand this concept without experiencing it myself." Captain Wright nearly dropped his coffee cup. Dr. Baker looked worried. Dr. Park stared at Nyravelle with wide eyes. "You want to date someone?" Dr. Park asked. "A human?" "Yes," Nyravelle said firmly. "If I am to write a complete report about human reproduction customs for my people, I must understand all aspects of your bonding process. Your literature says that dating is how humans choose their partners. I need to experience this process." Dr. Baker spoke up. "Nyravelle, this could be emotionally complicated. Dating involves real feelings. It is not just a scientific observation." "I understand the risks," Nyravelle replied. "But my people need to understand why humans form emotional bonds before reproduction. The only way to truly understand is to experience it." Captain Wright looked thoughtful. "Do you have someone in mind as your research partner?" Nyravelle's skin turned a lighter shade of blue, which everyone had learned meant she was feeling shy or uncertain. "I would like to ask Jake Murphy. He has been very helpful in explaining human customs to me. He is patient with my questions and does not laugh at my confusion." When Jake heard about Nyravelle's request, he was sitting in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars. Dr. Park found him there and explained what Nyravelle had asked. "She wants to date me?" Jake asked. "Like actually date me?" "She sees it as research," Dr. Park said. "But Jake, you need to be careful. Even if she thinks this is just an experiment, real emotions might develop. For both of you." Jake had been thinking about Nyravelle a lot over the past few days. He found her curiosity about human emotions fascinating. She asked questions that made him think about things he had always taken for granted. And there was something about her that he found attractive even though she was an alien. "I will do it," Jake said. "But I want to do it right. If she wants to experience human dating, then I will show her what real dating is like." The next evening, Jake knocked on the door to Nyravelle's quarters. She opened the door and stepped back in surprise. Jake was dressed in his best civilian clothes and holding a small bouquet of flowers that he had made using the station's food synthesizer. "What are those?" Nyravelle asked, pointing at the flowers. "These are flowers," Jake said with a smile. "On Earth, men often bring flowers to women when they go on dates. It is a way to show that you think the person is special." Nyravelle took the flowers carefully. She smelled them, and her skin turned a soft pink color. "They are beautiful, but they serve no practical purpose." "That is exactly the point," Jake said. "Love is not always practical. Sometimes we do things just because they are beautiful, or because they make someone happy." Jake had planned their first date carefully. He took Nyravelle to the observation lounge, but he had arranged it specially for their evening. He had dimmed the lights and set up a small table with human food that he thought she might find interesting. "This is called a romantic dinner," Jake explained as they sat down. "Couples do this to spend time together and talk." Nyravelle looked at the setup with scientific interest. She had brought her note-taking device. "So the purpose is conversation and food consumption in a pleasant environment?" "Sort of," Jake said. "But it is also about getting to know each other better. I want to learn about you, not just as a Zilithian, but as Nyravelle. And I want you to know about me, not just as a human, but as Jake." This confused Nyravelle. "What is the difference?" Jake thought about how to explain this. "Well, you know that I am human, that I work in communications, that I come from Mars colony. But do you know what makes me happy? Do you know what I dream about? Do you know what I was like as a child?" Nyravelle put down her note-taking device. "No, I do not know these things. Are they important for understanding human bonding?" "They are the most important things," Jake said. When humans fall in love, we do not just love the idea of that person. We love who they really are inside. As they ate dinner, Jake told Niravel about his childhood on Mars colony. He talked about how he used to look up at the stars and dream about exploring space. He told her about his first job, his fears, his hopes for the future. "What about you?" Jake asked. "What was your childhood like?" Niravel had never been asked this question before. Zilithian children are raised in educational facilities. We learn efficiency and logic from a young age. I was particularly good at xenobiology, so I was selected for advanced studies. "But what did you like to do for fun?" Jake asked. "Fun?" Niravel looked confused. "We do not have this concept. We have recreational activities that maintain physical and mental health, but they are scheduled and purposeful." Jake felt sad for her. "You have never just done something because it made you happy?" Niravel thought about this. "I enjoy learning new things. When I discover something interesting, I feel satisfied. Is this happiness?" "It is a kind of happiness," Jake said. "But there are many kinds. There is the happiness of discovery, the happiness of accomplishment, the happiness of helping others, and the happiness of being with someone you care about." As the evening went on, something changed in Niravel. She stopped taking notes. She stopped asking scientific questions. Instead, she found herself just listening to Jake talk and enjoying the sound of his voice. She liked the way he smiled when he told funny stories about his friends. She liked how his eyes lit up when he talked about things he loved. "Jake," she said during a quiet moment, "I think I am beginning to understand something." "What is that?" "When you talk, I feel it different. My chest feels warm. I want to continue listening to you even when you are not sharing important information. Is this normal?" Jake smiled gently. "That sounds like you might be starting to care about me, not as a research subject, but as a person." Niravel's skin turned a beautiful shade of gold mixed with pink. "This is unexpected. I thought this would be purely observational." "The best parts of being human usually are unexpected," Jake said. They sat together looking out at the stars through the big window. Without really thinking about it, Niravel moved her chair closer to Jake's. When their hands accidentally touched on the table, she did not pull away. "I would like to do this again," she said quietly. "Is that part of the dating process?" "Yes," Jake said, his heart beating faster. "If two people enjoy spending time together, they go on more dates, they get to know each other better." "And then what happens?" Jake looked into her large, beautiful eyes. "Sometimes, if they are lucky, they fall in love." Niravel felt something she had never experienced before. It was like a warm glow spreading through her entire body. She was no longer thinking about this as an experiment. She was thinking about Jake as someone she wanted to spend more time with, someone who made her feel things she had no words for. "I think," she said very softly, "I would like to find out what that feels like." Over the next 2 weeks, Jake and Niravel spent more and more time together. What had started as a scientific experiment was becoming something real and beautiful. They took walks through the station's gardens, shared meals in quiet corners of the dining hall, and spent hours talking about their different worlds. The other crew members noticed the change between them. Jake smiled more often and seemed happier than anyone had seen him before. Niravel's skin stayed in warm, bright colors most of the time. She laughed at Jake's jokes, even when she did not fully understand them. She had stopped carrying her
note-taking device everywhere. Dr. Park watched their relationship develop with both fascination and concern. She had never seen an alien adapt to human emotions so quickly. Niravel was changing in ways that seemed to go beyond simple learning. Her
behavior patterns are completely different now, Dr. Park explained to Captain Wright. She used to be focused only on gathering information. Now she spends hours just sitting with Jake, not talking about anything important. She is experiencing genuine emotional attachment. Captain Wright nodded. "And Jake?" "Jake is falling in love with her. I can see it in the way he looks at her, the way he talks about her. This is not just friendship anymore." Meanwhile, on the Zilithian ship, the other members of Nyravel's delegation were growing worried. They had noticed that she was spending less time with them and more time with the humans, especially Jake. Keth Nor, the senior scientist on the Zilithian team, contacted their homeworld to report on the situation. Nyravel's behavior has become concerning, he transmitted. She appears to be developing the same emotional inefficiencies that we observe in humans. The response from their homeworld came quickly. Elder Zethmore, one of the most respected leaders of their species, would be coming to Aurora Station, personally to evaluate the situation. But before Elder Zethmore could arrive, another crisis developed. Nyravel received an urgent message from the Zilithian High Council. It was time for her species' reproduction season, which happened only once every 7 years. Nyravel found Jake in the communication center and asked him to meet her in the observation lounge. Her skin was a dark purple color that Jake had never seen before. She looked upset and confused. "I have received new orders," she said quietly. "I must return to my home world immediately." Jake felt his heart sink. "Why? What happened?" "It is reproduction season for my people," Nyravel explained. "Every Zilithian of reproductive age must contribute their genetic material to create the next generation. It is not optional. It is biological duty." Jake tried to understand what this meant. "So you have to go home and have children?" "Not the way humans have children," Nyravel said. "We go to genetic facilities. Scientists take samples of our DNA and combine them with others to create new life. The babies grow in artificial environments. We do not choose our genetic partners. The scientists choose based on what will create the strongest offspring." Jake felt a strange emotion that he had never experienced before. It took him a moment to realize what it was. He was jealous. The thought of Nyravel being with someone else, even in the clinical way her people reproduced, made him feel sick. "How long will you be gone?" he asked. Nyravel's skin turned even darker. "I do not know. The process can take many months. And Jake, there is something else. After reproduction season, young Zilithians are usually assigned to new positions far from their previous work. I may not be allowed to return to this research project." They sat in silence for a long time, both staring out at the stars. Finally, Jake spoke. "Are you going to go?" Nyravel looked at him with her large, sad eyes. "I have always followed the orders of the High Council. It is what Zilithians do. We serve the greater good of our species." "But what do you want to do?" Jake asked. "Not as a Zilithian, but as Nyravel. What does your heart tell you?" "My heart?" Nyravel put her hand on her chest. "Humans always talk about the heart. But it is just an organ that pumps blood." "No," Jake said gently. "The heart is where we feel love. When I think about you leaving, my heart hurts. When I see you happy, my heart feels warm. What does your heart feel when you think about going home?" Nyravel closed her eyes and was quiet for a moment. "It feels heavy, like something is being torn away. I do not want to leave you, Jake. For the first time in my life, I want something that is not logical or efficient. I want to stay here with you." Jake reached over and took her hand. Her skin immediately warmed under his touch, turning a soft gold color. "Then stay." "I cannot," Nyravel said, but her voice was uncertain. "My people need me. It is my duty." "What about what you need?" Jake asked. "You have spent your whole life doing what others expected of you. What do you want for yourself?" Before Nyravel could answer, the door to the observation lounge opened. Dr. Park walked in, followed by a tall Zilithian that neither Jake nor Nyravel had seen before. This alien was older than Nyravel, with darker blue skin and more formal clothing. "Nyravel," the stranger said in a deep voice, "I am Elder Zethmore. I have come to escort you home." Nyravel stood up quickly, her skin turning pale with surprise and fear. "Elder Zethmore, I did not expect you to come personally. Your behavior has caused great concern among the High Council." Zethmore said. Reports indicate that you have become emotionally compromised by your exposure to human customs. Jake stood up too, feeling protective of Naira Vel. She has not been compromised. She has been learning and growing. Zethmore looked at Jake with cold eyes. Young human, you do not understand. Emotional attachment is a weakness that our species eliminated long ago. It leads to poor decisions and inefficient behavior. It leads to happiness, Jake said firmly. It leads to love and connection and all the things that make life worth living. Precisely why it is dangerous, Zethmore replied. Naira Vel, you will return with me immediately. We will help you overcome these unfortunate emotional responses. Naira Vel looked back and forth between Jake and Elder Zethmore. Her skin was changing colors rapidly, showing her confusion and distress. Jake could see that she was torn between everything she had been taught and everything she had recently learned to feel. I need time to think, she said quietly. There is no time, Zethmore said. Reproduction season waits for no one. We leave in 2 hours. As Zethmore walked away, Naira Vel turned to Jake with tears in her large eyes. Jake had never seen a Zilithian cry before. I do not know what to do, she whispered. My mind tells me to go home and fulfill my duty. But my heart, this thing you taught me about, tells me to stay with you. Jake pulled her into his arms, holding her close. She felt warm and right against him. Whatever you decide, I will understand. But know that I love you, Naira Vel. Not as a human loves a research subject, but as a man loves a woman. You have become the most important thing in my life. Naira Vel looked up at him, her skin glowing with soft golden light. I love you too, Jake. I did not know what this word meant before, but now I understand. I love you, and the thought of leaving you feels like losing part of myself. They held each other tightly, both knowing that in just 2 hours, they might be separated forever. 1 hour before Naira Vel was supposed to leave with Elder Zethmore, Dr. Park made an amazing discovery. She had been running medical scans on Naira Vel throughout her stay on Aurora Station, tracking how her body was responding to human contact and emotions. Dr. Park burst into the observation lounge where Jake and Naira Vel were spending their last moments together. I have something incredible to show you both, she said, holding her tablet computer. The emotional bond between you two has caused real physical changes in Naira Vel's brain, Dr. Park explained excitedly. New neural pathways have formed. Parts of her brain that were dormant are now active. Her body is producing chemicals that Zilithians have not made for thousands of years. Naira Vel looked confused. What does this mean? It means that love has awakened something in your DNA that your people thought was lost forever, Dr. Park said. Your species used to form emotional bonds like humans do, but over time you evolved away from it in favor of efficiency. The capacity was always there, just sleeping. Jake felt hope rising in his chest. So this is natural for her? More than natural, Dr. Park said. The brain scans show that Naira Vel's cognitive abilities have actually improved since she started experiencing love. Her creativity levels are higher. Her problem-solving skills are better. Love has not made her weaker. It has made her stronger. At that moment, Captain Wright arrived with Elder Zethmore and several other Zilithian officials. Zethmore looked stern and impatient. It is time to leave, Naira Vel, he said firmly. The transport ship is ready. But Dr. Park stepped forward. Elder Zethmore, you need to see this data before you make any decisions. She showed him the brain scans and explained what they meant. At first, Zethmore dismissed the information. Emotional responses are inefficient distractions, he said coldly. But look at her performance levels, Dr. Park insisted. Every measure of intelligence and capability has improved. Love has not made her less Zilithian. It has made her a better Zilithian. Elder Zethmore studied the data more carefully. His expression slowly changed from dismissal to curiosity to genuine surprise. This is impossible, he said quietly. Our historians tell us that emotional bonding was a primitive trait that we outgrew. Captain Wright spoke up. What if your historians were wrong? What if you did not outgrow love, but accidentally eliminated something valuable. Nyravel found her. Voice. Elder Zethmore, I have learned things about myself that I never knew were possible. I feel joy, sadness, hope, and love. These emotions do not make me confused or weak. They make me want to be better. They make me want to contribute more to the universe. Show me, Zethmore said suddenly. Show me these improvements you speak of. Dr. Park led them all to the science lab, where she had Nyravel complete several complex problem-solving tests. The results were remarkable. Nyravel solved puzzles faster and more creatively than she ever had before. When she was asked to design a new type of communication system, her solution was brilliant and original. How do you explain this improvement? Zethmore asked. Nyravel looked at Jake, then back at the elder. When you love someone, you want to be the best version of yourself. Love does not make you think less clearly. It gives you reasons to think more clearly. It gives you motivation to achieve great things. Zethmore was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke to the other Zilithian officials in their own language. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell there was an intense discussion happening. There is another issue, Zethmore said eventually. Even if we accept that emotional bonding may have benefits, you still have obligations to reproduction season. Our species requires genetic diversity to survive. Nyravel took a deep breath. I propose a different solution. Let me stay here and continue this research. Let me learn more about love and emotional bonding. If my theory is correct, I can help our people rediscover abilities we have lost. I can become a bridge between humans and Zilithians. And what about reproduction? Zethmore asked. I can contribute my genetic material from here, Nyravel said. Modern technology allows for sample transport across great distances. I can fulfill my biological duty while continuing this important research. Jake felt his heart racing. Was she saying what he thought she was saying? But more importantly, Nyravel continued, I want to explore whether emotional bonding might lead to new forms of partnership between our species. The genetic combination of human and Zilithian DNA might create offspring with the best traits of both races. This suggestion shocked everyone in the room. Interspecies reproduction had never been attempted before. Dr. Park looked thoughtful. The genetic compatibility would need extensive testing, but theoretically, it might be possible. Elder Zethmore stared at Nyravel for a long moment. You are proposing to completely change thousands of years of Zilithian tradition. I am proposing that we evolve, Nyravel said firmly. Not by eliminating emotions, but by embracing them. Humans have shown me that love does not make a species weak. It makes them willing to fight harder, work longer, and dream bigger, because they have something precious to protect. Jake stepped forward and took Nyravel's hand. Elder Zethmore, I love Nyravel, not because she is an interesting alien, but because she is brilliant, curious, brave, and kind. She has taught me as much about humanity as I have taught her about love. If you let her stay, I promise we will use our relationship to build bridges between our peoples. Zethmore looked at their joined hands. For the first time, he noticed how Nyravel's skin glowed warmly when Jake touched her. He saw the happiness in her large eyes. He saw that she looked more alive and vibrant than any Zilithian he had ever known. This is highly irregular, he said slowly. But the data is compelling. Very well. Nyravel, you may remain here to continue your research, but you will report your findings regularly. If this experiment fails, you will return home immediately. Nyravel threw her arms around Jake and he lifted her off the ground in a joyful embrace. Her skin was glowing so brightly that it filled the room with warm golden light. Thank you, she whispered to Jake, for teaching me how to love. Thank you, Jake replied, for choosing love. 6 months later, Aurora Station had become the center of the first interspecies emotional research program. Nyravel and Jake worked together every day, documenting how love affected different alien species. They discovered that many races throughout the galaxy had suppressed their emotional capabilities in favor of efficiency, but that those emotions could be reawakened. Their relationship had grown deeper and stronger. They had learned to blend human passion with Zilithian logic, creating something entirely new and beautiful. They were planning the first human-Zilithian bonding ceremony, a combination of marriage and scientific partnership. Most importantly, their love had become a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. They proved that different species could not only work together, but could love each other, creating connections that transcended biology and culture. When other aliens asked about human reproduction customs, Naira Vel would smile and explain that it was not really about reproduction at all. It was about choosing to share your life with someone who made you better than you could be alone. It was about finding someone worth fighting for, worth changing for, worth growing for. Love, she had learned, was not just a human trait. It was a universal force that could transform anyone brave enough to embrace it.